Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thailand's military has imposed martial law after months of anti-government protests. The protesters have blocked elections and called for the ouster of a caretaker government installed after Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra was removed by a court earlier this month. Soldiers have blocked off streets in the capital, Bangkok, and at least 10 TV stations have been ordered to shut down. The army's denied its efforts constitute a coup. The Obama administration's announced charges against 5 members of the Chinese military for economic espionage against U.S. companies, including Westinghouse, Alcoa, and U.S. Steel. Attorney General Eric Holder accused the officers of stealing trade secrets to benefit state-owned companies.
All nations are engaged in intelligence gathering. What I think distinguishes this case is that we have a state-sponsored entity, state-sponsored individuals using intelligence tools to gain commercial advantage. And that is what makes this case different.
China has denounced the indictment and summoned U.S. Ambassador Max Baucus. The United States has denied engaging in economic espionage, despite reports from Glenn Greenwald and others about its efforts to spy on economic targets, from global conferences to the Brazilian oil firm Petrobras. The charges came as a new report by The Intercept reveals the United States is secretly recording virtually every cell phone call in the Bahamas. We'll speak with the report's co-author, Ryan Devereaux, later in the broadcast. London cleric Abu Hamza al-Masri has been convicted of terrorism charges by a New York jury. He was accused of aiding kidnappers in Yemen and trying to set up a militant training camp in Oregon, although his attorneys argued the case relied largely on beliefs expressed in his sermons. He could face life in prison. A federal judge has denied a request to stay the execution of a Missouri prisoner who suffers from a rare medical condition which he fears could cause an excruciating death. The judge also rejected Russell Bucklew's request to have his execution filmed as evidence of cruel and unusual punishment. Bucklew's lawyers have appealed. His execution, set for 12:01 a.m. Wednesday, would be the first since last month's botched killing in Oklahoma. In both states, the source of the lethal drugs has been kept secret. Credit Suisse has pleaded guilty to a criminal charge and agreed to pay $2.6 billion for its role in helping U.S. clients avoid taxes by concealing assets in undeclared bank accounts. It's the largest bank to plead guilty to a criminal charge in the United States in 20 years. We'll have more on the plea deal later in the broadcast. Jill Abramson has delivered the commencement address at Wake Forest University in North Carolina just days after she was fired as executive editor of the New York Times. Abramson was the first woman to hold the post and had reportedly complained about making less than her male predecessors. In her address, she discussed how she co-authored a book about Anita Hill, who testified about sexual harassment by Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas before an all-white, all-male Senate panel in 1991.
The senators portrayed her as being, as one of her detractors so delicately put it, a little bit nutty and a little bit slutty. She turned that potential humiliation into a great career teaching at Brandeis University and writing books that tell truth to power. Anita was one of the many people who wrote me last week to say they are proud of me. Those messages are so appreciated.
In another commencement address at Reed College in Oregon, Speaker Igor Vamos announced the school's decision to join a growing movement by divesting from fossil fuels.
I was very pleased to learn that the Board of Trustees of Reed College has just now decided to divest the school's $500 million endowment. But what they're doing with the money is what's most interesting. They're pulling the money from those industries and they're reinvesting it in community-owned renewable energy projects.
The announcement received a standing ovation. The only catch is that Reed College has not actually divested from fossil fuels. The speaker, Reed alum Igor Vamos, also known as Mike Bonanno, is a member of the culture jamming activist group The Yes Men, who is carrying out his latest political prank. The ruse involved a fake website and press release which fooled at least one news outlet. In a real statement, Reed College said its trustees are reviewing the student call for divestment. Occupy Wall Street activist Cecily McMillan has been sentenced to 90 days in jail and 5 years probation for elbowing a police officer during her arrest at a protest. McMillan has claimed she struck out instinctively when her breast was grabbed from behind. 9 of 12 jurors had written to the judge asking him not to sentence her to any prison time. We'll have more on the case later in the broadcast. In 2 victories for marriage equality, a federal judge has ordered Utah to recognize more than 1,000 unions that occurred before a stay was issued by the Supreme Court, while another judge has struck down Oregon's ban on same-sex marriage. Couples began tying the knot in Oregon almost immediately after the ruling. The historian, author, and civil rights activist Vincent Harding has died at the age of 82. He was a friend and speechwriter for Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., and co-wrote King's famous anti-war address, Beyond Vietnam. Speaking on Democracy Now! In 2008, Vincent Harding talked about King's vision.
By the last years of his life, he was saying that America had to deal with 3, what he called triple evils: the evil of racism, the evil of materialism, and the evils of militarism. And he saw those 3 very much connected to each other.
That was Vincent Harding. He died yesterday. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Aaron Maté. Welcome to our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.